visible world, essential items of lasting beauty are increasing in worth. Experience the fulfillment of creating heirlooms for succeeding generations with your own hands.
Hi, my name is Frank Straza. I'm with the Heritage School of Woodworking. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to sharpen a chisel. The same techniques that I show you in sharpening a chisel are the same techniques that you'll use in sharpening a plane, a spoke shave, and other tools. And in upcoming videos, you will see more in depth some of the different things to encounter. The first thing I'd like to talk about is what defines sharp. And the way I usually define sharp is having two highly polished surfaces coming and meeting to infinity. If we take one of those aspects out of the equation, then we won't have a sharp tool. In other words, if we take one surface and we polish only one surface and we don't polish the other surface, then we won't have a sharp tool. You have to have both surfaces meeting to infinity. Both have to be highly polished. I'm going to show you the technique that I use. I use diamond stones, and again, we'll talk about some of the other stones and their pros and cons in some of the other videos. But I use diamond stones here. I have a coarse, medium, and fine. I then go on to a hard translucent oil stone and a leather strop. So the coarse stone is about a 300 grit. We've got a medium, also referred to as a fine stone, that's 600 grit, and then a extra fine, which is 1200 grit. The hard translucent, they don't give that a grit size because it's a quarried stone, it's a natural stone. So let's begin here. One of the things to be concerned about here is the angle, but 25 to 35 degrees is fairly standard. I just do it by eye. I'm going to start by putting a little bit of water on the stone. So what the water does is it helps float away the particles. I added a couple drops of soap there to help break the surface tension of the water. The first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by working on the bevel. That's this part of the tool right here, and I'm going to start on the coarse stone. What we're going to do is bring my hand down close to the bevel and feel the bevel. You can rock the chisel back and forth. You can even see the water coming out right at the edge there, and you know that you've got the angle. Okay, so now I've got this, and I'm just going to work it back and forth. Now there's several ways to do this. We can work in a circle. We can go straight back and forth like this. You can do it in a figure eight if you want to get fancy. The main thing is you want to maintain a consistent bevel. Okay, so how do I know that I've maintained the bevel? Well, let's check our progress. You can see a scratch pattern right there. See that scratch pattern? There's some of the old polish right there from the previous sharpening. I'm doing the whole entire bevel so I can see the scratch pattern and I can see that I'm maintaining the same bevel that's there on the chisel. So again, back like this. What I'm not doing, I'm not holding it up here. If I was holding it up here, the chisel would move back and forth like this and it would tend to put a round in the chisel, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to hold it as close as I can. My left hand comes in here for stability, and we work it back and forth, work in a circular motion, just like this. Again, maintaining a consistent bevel here. So let's look at it again. Seems like we're making some progress. So let's work on it a little bit more. Now, how do I know that I've gone enough on one particular stone? That's the question. How do we know that we've gone enough? Well, as I mentioned earlier, what defines sharp is having two surfaces meeting. So you have one surface meeting the other surface. Now what we're doing here on this bevel is we're removing metal. So we're taking metal away from the bevel to the back. So when that happens, when the bevel has met the back, we're going to feel a burr. Now this is the secret to sharpening. You've got to get the burr. So You can feel, sometimes even see, but unfortunately you can't feel the burr in the video, but you can feel it here. Now I'm feeling it right here, right there, and right there. I feel a little bit heavier right there, but I want to make sure that I feel a burr all the way across that edge, because what we have here is we've got this bevel meeting the back. I want to get a little heavier burr. So if I'm not getting a burr, that means that I either, one, haven't gone enough on this bevel, I haven't sharpened this bevel enough, or two, I'm not at the right angle. I could be a little bit too low. That would be one reason I'm not getting a burr. Simply turn it over, look at that scratch pattern. If your scratch pattern is back here but not up towards the bevel, well, you need to increase the bevel. So now I've got a burr all the way across, feeling it there, there, and there. We've got the burr. That means that the bevel has met the back. Now, that burr for me is a tactile indicator that I've gone enough on this stone. I'm ready to move on to the next stone. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that burr off. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the fine stone, the ultra fine stone here, and I've got the stone flush with the edge here in this little holder. And I'm going to take the chisel like this. It's very important that the chisel is held perfectly flat. So you'll see we're just going to take the burr off on the back of the chisel. Now I sharpen these chisels every day, so the back of this is already polished. In subsequent videos, I'm going to show you some of the problems that you can encounter by sharpening a used tool or even a new tool, and what you will have to do to get this type of polish on the back of your tool. So now the burr is gone. In fact, the burr is on the bevel side. So now we'll go to the medium stone, and same way. I've felt the angle, and we're going to work it back and forth. I like to work it in a circular motion because it helps maintain that bevel. So here we are. We're just going to work this back and forth like this. Again, feel the burr. I want to feel right there, and I'm just going to go a little bit more until I get a nice consistent burr. Then we'll move on. Again, I'm going to take the burr off on the back. Now, you'll notice what I'm doing here. I've got pressure right here and loose pressure with my right hand right here guiding the chisel. What I don't want to do is I don't want to put my fingertip underneath here lifting the chisel up. If you lift the chisel up, you'll round the back. Another thing I'm not doing is I'm not coming in like this to where the chisel could ride up on this beveled part right there, again lifting the chisel up. So I've got it like this, pressure here, loose grip here, work it back and forth until that burr is gone. And we're going to come over here, we're going to maintain that bevel and just work it. Again, you can hear the difference from the coarse to the fine. It's a finer grit, it's taking off less material, but it's also polishing that edge. Again, work it until I feel that burr. Let's take that burr off. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the oil stone. As I mentioned, this is a hard translucent oil stone. These are quarried in Arkansas. It's a natural stone. And I've chosen to use an oil stone because it's finer than this diamond stone. On this oil stone, I'm going to use just a little 3-in-1 oil, and that helps keep the stone from getting clogged up with metal shavings, metal particles. Again, feel that bevel. Use the whole stone. The advantage here of doing this freehand without the use of a guide is that I can use the whole stone, so I don't have to worry about the stone wearing unevenly. You'll notice here I'm using this corner over here. Use the whole entire stone and feel the burr. Every time you'll notice I feel that burr. I've got a burr there, there, and there. Okay, we're going to flip this over. work the back. Again, you can't even hear it cutting, but it is. It's polishing it. Now sometimes I'll work this again on the bevel, maybe applying a little lighter pressure, less pressure here, so the burr is much finer. It's there, very subtle. Okay. Last but not least, I am going to strop this chisel. And what I've got here is I've got a leather strop, a piece of leather adhered to a block of wood with some buffing rouge, chromium oxide. And I'll just rub that on here. You don't have to rub it on every time you sharpen. This will last me a couple weeks. And we'll just set this right over here. Now, with this, we're going to pull the chisel. If I push the chisel, we'll cut into the leather. So I'm going to maintain the bevel and just go a couple times. One of the things I don't want to do here is I don't want to round this over. Of course, it's going to round it slightly, but if I polish it too much here, we could round that edge, which there's nothing really wrong with it other than it makes it harder when you go back to resharpen because you've got to take that round off. But you'll notice, look at that polish. That chromium oxide is actually about 0.5 micron is the smallest particle size, which is very fine. It's actually abrading the edge, polishing the edge, making a super sharp tool. There we have it. There's the polished tool. There's a couple ways to test our sharpening job here. One way is to test it on your fingernail. If I hold the chisel up like this as close as I can and then test it right on my thumbnail, just touch it to my thumbnail like this. If it catches it, I know it's sharp. Now I'm not testing it up like this. I'm not carving away my thumbnail. I'm just touching it to my thumbnail. And if it catches like that, I know it's sharp. Of course, you can do the paper test as well, where we'll take it and it cuts through. That concludes this video for sharpening. Please check back for more in-depth sharpening techniques in our next video series.